Sometimes what's meant to help us actually hurts us quietly. I've seen this too many times. That's why today I want to gently walk you through 6 common vitamins that may not be as friendly to your heart as you've been told. Let's take them one by one and start making things right. Let's begin with something I see often, too often, in my work with older adults: vitamin E supplements. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Isn't vitamin E good for me? Doesn't it fight aging and help my skin? And yes, for years that's exactly what many of us believed. But here's what I want you to know today. When taken in high doses, especially without medical guidance, vitamin E can slowly put extra stress on your heart, and that's something we can't afford to ignore. Our bodies change with age. The way we process vitamins and store them changes too. What once was harmless or helpful at 40 can act differently after 65. Especially fat-soluble vitamins like E, they don't leave the body quickly. They build up. And if there's already high blood pressure, arrhythmia, or any history of heart disease, this quiet buildup could push the system toward real trouble. I don't say this to scare you, but to invite a little check-in with your daily habits and see if there's something small we can shift for the better. I remember a patient of mine. Her name was Marilyn, 72, from Lubbock, Texas. She came into my office with fluttering in her chest. It wasn't constant, but it scared her. She'd been otherwise active, walking daily, cooking for herself, keeping her home in great shape. When we started talking through her routine, she mentioned a vitamin combo she'd been using. Nothing unusual, just something she saw advertised on TV that promised heart and brain support. I looked at the label and my heart sank a little. The vitamin E dose was more than 400 IU, taken daily, without food and without any blood work. She had no idea that over time, this amount could quietly increase her risk for heart rhythm problems, especially since she already had mild hypertension. Another story I remember is from Bill, 76, a retired teacher in Kansas City. He started vitamin E supplements after a friend told him it was good for aging skin and memory. After a few months, he began feeling short of breath during his morning walks. He assumed it was just age, but it turned out to be early signs of atrial fibrillation. His cardiologist traced it back to his supplement list, and vitamin E was the first thing they stopped. Within weeks, his energy returned, and he felt more like himself again. I don't think either of them ever thought a simple capsule could be the culprit, but that's how subtle these things can be. We often look for problems in our food or stress levels and forget to check the bottle in our cabinet. So what helps? Most of my patients, first in a conversation with your doctor. If you're taking vitamin E and haven't had your levels checked or don't have a specific reason for using it, bring it up. Ask if it's still necessary. Second, if your doctor agrees, consider stopping the capsule and focusing on natural food sources. Just a small handful of almonds, a bit of sunflower oil on your salad, or a portion of cooked spinach can give you enough vitamin E without going overboard. These foods also come with other nutrients that support your body as a whole. It's safer, gentler, and easier for your heart to process. You deserve a heart that works quietly and steadily, not one pushed into struggle by something meant to help. Think of your heart like a classic car. It doesn't need turbo fuel, it needs clean, balanced maintenance. Just because something is called a vitamin doesn't mean it's harmless. And the best care often begins with less, not more. Small steps matter, and your health is always worth pausing for. Here's another one that comes up more often than you'd think: calcium supplements. It sounds harmless, even essential, right? Especially if you've been told to protect your bones as you age. But the truth is, too much calcium, especially from pills and powders, can silently start to harm your arteries. See, after 60, the body doesn't always handle calcium like it used to. When there's more than needed floating around and not enough vitamin D to help process it properly, that extra calcium can settle in places it shouldn't, like the walls of your blood vessels. Over time, this can make them stiff, less flexible. And that's not just a small issue. Stiff arteries are one of the early steps toward high blood pressure, angina, and even heart attacks. What's tricky is that calcium overload doesn't usually come with clear symptoms. No pain, no swelling, just a slow shift inside your body that you won't notice until something serious happens. That's why it's so important to talk about it now, before it turns into a bigger problem. Later, A patient I worked with named Joseph, he's 78, from Tempe, Arizona, came to me during a routine checkup. He wasn't in pain, but his blood pressure had been creeping up and he'd started having tightness in his chest while going up the stairs. He assumed it was just aging, but when we ran a calcium score test on his heart, we found something worrying. Signs of calcification in his coronary arteries. This was a man who'd never smoked, exercised regularly, and avoided processed food. So what was going on? It turned out he'd been taking calcium supplements for over a year, 1,200 mg a day, after reading about bone health in a magazine. He wasn't taking vitamin D alongside it, and his diet already included plenty of dairy. That extra calcium had nowhere to go, so it found its way into his arteries. Another woman, Bernice, 74, from Ohio, told me during a consultation that her neighbor had convinced her to start calcium chews just in case. She wasn't even diagnosed with bone loss, but thought it couldn't hurt. 3 months in, her ankles were swelling, and her doctor noticed elevated blood pressure. When she stopped the chews and focused on diet instead, low-fat yogurt, sardines, broccoli, her numbers gradually improved. She was relieved but also frustrated that something marketed as helpful could have gone so wrong. And she's not alone. I've heard this story in different forms for years. Too much of a good thing can quietly become harmful, especially after 60. What often helps? Start by reviewing your calcium sources. If you're eating dairy, leafy greens, or canned fish, with bones you may already be getting enough from your meals. One of the safest approaches is to get your levels checked with a simple blood test. Talk with your doctor about whether you really need a supplement at all, and if so, the dose should match your body's needs, not a label on a bottle. Try to meet most of your calcium needs through whole foods. Broccoli, tofu, almonds, or a bit of parmesan on a salad can make a big difference without putting strain on your heart. And always check if you're pairing calcium with the right amount of vitamin D. Your doctor can help guide that. You've made it through so much in life. Your heart deserves ease, not extra pressure. Imagine it like an old tree, strong but sensitive to what surrounds it. Water and sun, not flood and heat. Give your heart the balance it needs, and it will keep standing tall for you. Small adjustments today can mean many more calm mornings. Tomorrow, let's talk about something that's often overlooked, vitamin B6. You might see it listed in multivitamins, energy formulas, or nerve support blends. It's not one of the flashy ones, but it's in more pills than you'd think. And while it has its place in certain medical situations, when older adults take too much B6 without a clear reason, it can start to do more harm than good. One issue is that B6 affects the nervous system, and in larger doses it can actually cause nerve damage, something called peripheral neuropathy. That means numbness, tingling, burning in the hands or feet, or even balance problems. And it's not always permanent. But the part that worries me most is how B6 can also affect the heart. In people over 60, especially those with underlying issues like arrhythmia or high blood pressure, too much B6 can subtly increase the chances of irregular heartbeat. It doesn't happen overnight, it builds, and many don't connect the dots until it's already caused distress. The body becomes more sensitive with age, especially when it comes to water-soluble vitamins taken in concentrated form. That's why even something as basic as B6 deserves our careful attention. I remember a woman named Helen, 69 years old, from Boise, Idaho. She came to me after experiencing strange sensations in her feet, a kind of buzzing, as she described it, that kept her up at night. She also noticed her heart would sometimes race after meals or while resting. She was worried it might be something serious. After running tests and talking through her habits, we found the likely source. She'd started taking a high-dose brain and energy vitamin blend she'd seen on social media. It had 50 milligrams of vitamin B6 per pill, over 30 times what most older adults actually need. She had no idea. She thought it was just a vitamin, so it must be safe. We stopped the supplement. Immediately and within a few weeks, her sleep and heart rate improved. Another case was Arthur, 75, a retired bus driver in North Carolina. He began taking vitamin B6 because he read it might help with memory. But after 2 months, he developed numbness in his fingertips and felt off balance while walking. It scared him. A neurologist confirmed mild nerve inflammation likely linked to the supplement. When he quit and shifted to food-based sources, his symptoms faded. He told me, "I thought I was doing something smart. Didn't expect a vitamin to backfire." These stories aren't rare. They're reminders that more isn't always better, especially when the label looks harmless but hides a megadose. What often helps? One of the simplest ways to stay safe is to avoid any supplement that lists more than 2 milligrams of vitamin B6 and less. Your doctor specifically recommended it. That's usually enough to meet your daily needs without tipping into danger. If you feel you need more energy or support, consider instead gentle habits that naturally restore vitality, like better hydration, small walks after meals, or improving your sleep rhythm. And if you do use a multivitamin, check the label carefully. You can even take a photo and ask your doctor or pharmacist to double-check the dose. You don't need to do everything perfectly. You just need to know what your body truly needs, not what a shiny label promises. Think of your health like a quiet garden. It doesn't need fireworks. It needs steady sun, kind water, and patience. You're already doing more than enough by being curious and open. That's how healing starts. Now let's pause and take a closer look at iron supplements. You might not expect to see iron on this list. After all, isn't iron good for energy, for fighting tiredness? That's true, but only if you actually need it. For older adults, taking extra iron without a confirmed deficiency can quietly harm the heart. As we age, our bodies tend to hold on to iron more than they used to, and unlike some nutrients that get flushed out, iron can build up in tissues including the heart. This buildup is called iron overload, and it can cause inflammation, stiffness, and even damage the heart muscle. What's tricky is that too much iron often doesn't come with obvious symptoms right away. You might feel a little more tired, a bit short of breath, or notice swelling in your ankles, all things that can easily be mistaken for just getting older. But over time, excess iron can contribute to serious heart problems, including arrhythmias and cardiomyopathy. That's why I always encourage people to check their iron levels before reaching for a supplement, because taking it, just in case, can quietly work against you. I think about Robert, 75, from Columbus, Ohio, a thoughtful, independent man. He loved gardening and was proud of staying active. But he came to see me after noticing he'd become unusually winded while planting his fall vegetables. We talked through his daily habits, and he mentioned that he'd been taking iron pills every morning for the past year. He wasn't told to take them. He just assumed that at his age he probably needed more iron. When we ran his labs, it turned out his iron levels were already high, much higher than recommended for someone his age. His ferritin, a marker for stored iron, showed a concerning number. That was our clue. He stopped the supplements, shifted to a diet that was lower in iron-rich meats, and within weeks, his energy started coming back. Another patient of mine, Denise, 73, from Reno, Nevada, shared a similar experience. Her friend had been taking iron for hair health, so Denise tried it too. After a few months, she began feeling pressure in her chest and noticed irregular heartbeats at night. Her doctor connected the dots, ordered blood work, and confirmed that her iron stores were too high. After stopping the supplement and staying hydrated with lighter foods, like fresh fruits and grains, her symptoms began to ease. Neither Robert nor Denise had anemia. They just didn't know that iron isn't something you top up without checking first. And that's the part that matters most. Not everything helpful is harmless when your body doesn't need it. So what's the safe path? Start by asking your doctor for a simple iron test. It's part of most standard blood panels. If you're not anemic and your iron levels are normal or high, skip the supplement altogether. Focus on getting what your body needs through balanced meals. Beans, leafy greens, and lean meats can give you plenty, but in natural amounts, your body can manage. If you've been told you do need iron, work closely with your doctor to choose the right dose and form. And always take it with food to help ease digestion. Your heart deserves just what it needs, no more, no less. Think of it like a well-tuned instrument. Too much of any one note can throw off the whole melody. But with care, attention, and the right rhythm, it can play beautifully for years to come. You have every right to feel strong and steady, one thoughtful step at a time. Let's take a moment to talk about something that almost everyone hears about: vitamin D. It's often called the sunshine vitamin, and yes, it plays an important role in bone health, immunity, and mood. But there's a quiet risk many older adults aren't warned about. Taking too much vitamin D, especially without checking blood levels first, can slowly harm your heart. Here's why. When your body has too much vitamin D, it starts to absorb more calcium from your food and supplements, even more than you actually need. That extra calcium, instead of helping your bones, may begin to deposit in your blood vessels. This process is known as vascular calcification. Over time, those stiffened arteries can raise your blood pressure and make your heart work harder. What makes this especially tricky is that people often don't feel anything until the damage has built up. There's no sharp pain, no alarm bell, just a quiet shift inside your body that might show up as fatigue, irregular heartbeat, or even kidney trouble. That's why I always suggest thinking twice before taking large doses of vitamin D, just in case. One patient I'll never forget is Eleanor, 74, from Raleigh, North Carolina. She was vibrant, curious, and took her health seriously. She'd read an article that said most older adults are low on vitamin D, so she started taking 5,000 IU daily without checking her levels or asking her doctor. For a while she felt fine, but then she noticed her blood pressure creeping up and began having odd cramps in her legs at night. Eventually she ended up in the ER with chest discomfort. Thankfully her heart was okay, but the labs showed something. Interesting, her calcium was too high and her vitamin D levels were well above the safe range. Her doctor gently explained that too much of a good thing had become a hidden problem. After cutting her dose and switching to short walks in the early morning sun, Eleanor's symptoms faded and she felt balanced again. Another story comes from Ray, 70, in Bakersfield, California. He took high-dose vitamin D during the winter months, thinking it would keep his immune system strong. But after a few months, he developed kidney stones, something he'd never experienced before. His doctor traced it back to his supplement regimen. The excess calcium absorbed due to high vitamin D had nowhere to go. It's a story I've heard more than once. Well-meaning people trying to do something good for themselves, accidentally tipping the scale too far. What can help you stay safe? The best first step is to ask your doctor for a 25-hydroxy vitamin D blood test. It's quick and gives you a clear picture of whether you truly need more. If your levels are normal or only slightly low, 600 to 1,000 IU per day is usually enough for most older adults. And don't forget the simple power of sunlight. Even just 15-20 minutes of gentle morning sun on your skin, no sunscreen, no glass between you and the sky, can help your body make what it needs naturally. If you can, take a slow walk outside when the light is soft. It helps more than just your bones. You don't need to chase health in high doses. Sometimes the quietest things, light on your face, fresh air in your lungs, bring the biggest healing. Your heart doesn't need more pressure, it needs more peace. Trust that small, thoughtful steps are enough. You are enough. Finally, let's talk about something that sounds almost too healthy to question: omega-3 supplements, especially fish oil. They've been praised for decades as a kind of magic bullet for heart health. And yes, omega-3s do play a valuable role in reducing inflammation, supporting brain function, and maintaining cardiovascular balance. But there's something many people over 60 don't realize. Taking high doses of omega-3s, especially in concentrated pill form, can increase the risk of an irregular heartbeat called atrial fibrillation. That's particularly true for older adults who already have high blood pressure or other heart rhythm issues. The reason? Omega-3s can alter the electrical activity of the heart, sometimes in ways that help, but other times in ways that create new problems. And just like with other supplements, most people don't feel the shift right away. There's no warning sign until one day your heart starts racing or skipping in a way that doesn't feel right. That's why, even with something as praised as fish oil, it's worth taking a second look. I think about Paul, 80 years old, from Eugene, Oregon. He was a retired librarian, sharp as ever, and a longtime believer in supplements. When he came in complaining of fluttering in his chest, I asked what medications he was taking, and he said nothing prescription, just the usual good stuff. That included 2 fish oil capsules a day, each with 2,000 milligrams of omega-3s. I asked if his cardiologist had recommended it. "No," he said, "I just read it was good for my arteries." We ran tests and sure enough, Paul was in early atrial fibrillation. There were no strokes or heart attacks yet, but his risk was rising. When we lowered his dose and added more whole foods like walnuts, flaxseed and salmon once or twice a week, his heart rate settled and he felt more grounded. Another patient, Dolores, 77, from Tampa, Florida, had a similar journey. She was told by a friend that fish oil would keep her young, so she bought a big bottle from a warehouse store. Within 2 months, she noticed her heart skipping, not constantly, but enough to make her anxious. After seeing her doctor, they pinpointed the change. It began shortly after she started the supplement. She stopped taking it and added more chia seeds and fresh fish to her meals instead. Her heartbeat returned to its steady rhythm. Stories like these remind me how something natural can still carry risk, especially when your heart has already seen a lot in its lifetime. What usually works best is to shift your focus from pills to plates. If your doctor hasn't told you to take fish oil for a specific condition, it's better to get omega-3s through food. Wild-caught salmon, sardines, chia seeds, flax and walnuts are all excellent sources, and they come packaged with other nutrients your body can use. If you still prefer to take a supplement, talk with your cardiologist first and stick to a moderate dose, usually no more than 1,000 milligrams per day, and always choose high-quality brands that test for purity. Your heart isn't just a muscle, it's your lifelong rhythm. It's been with you through every joy, loss, and morning cup of coffee. It deserves care that's rooted in understanding, not habit. Gentle steps, quiet balance, that's what keeps it going strong. You don't have to do everything right, just be kind to yourself and trust that it matters. If any of this made you pause or think differently, let me know in the comments. I read them all. Hit subscribe and ring the bell if you'd like more gentle, real advice for your health. You're not alone. You're wiser than you know, and your heart still has so many mornings ahead.